You know, Prototype is one of those games that I always liked, but didn't know really why I liked it. I don't even know what made me get this game to begin with. More than likely, as a kid, I just saw the box cover and just thought the blade looked pretty cool. That actually makes me wonder. I wonder if I still have the original Prototype box. Hold on, I'll be right back. So I don't have the original case, but I do have the case that I bought for Xbox One. So I guess it shows I've been playing it for a while. I don't think underrated is the right word to describe Prototype, mostly because when you look at the game, technically it's not a very good game, but regardless of its flaws, I really grew to like it. If you watch some of my other videos, you know that I like games that feed into my inner desire to live out a power fantasy, and Prototype does that to a T. Before we get into it a little deeper, I do want to remind y'all to like the video, subscribe, do all of the things. Everything you see is wrote in, shot by, and edited by me, so every little piece of support is very much appreciated. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into Prototype.
All clear.
My name is Alex Mercer. I'm the reason for all of this. They call me a killer, a monster, a terrorist.
Alright, before we talk about the actual game, let's talk about the origins of it. This game was developed by Radical Entertainment and published by Activision. And originally, Prototype wasn't even called Prototype. It was called True Crime Prototype, meaning that it was initially supposed to be a spin-off of the game True Crime, which honestly, I don't even understand how this was supposed to be related to that at all. But anyway, as development continued and the concepts became way darker, way violent, and far more ambitious than anything that franchise has tried ever to do, they scrapped the True Crime connection entirely. In my opinion, I feel like this was the best thing they could have ever done. Like I said, I can't even imagine this being a spin-off of True Crime. So I do give the developers some bonus points in that. I think Prototype deserves to stand on his own. The first Prototype is a story about Alex Mercer, a man who wakes up with no memory and he's suspicious biological powers. Instead of guns or anything traditional, the game leans into full-on body horror and mutation, which honestly makes this game awesome. You could climb and sprint up skyscrapers like Spider-Man, and you could cut through people like Wolverine. At the time, this level of freedom and brutality was somewhat shocking. To speak on the brutality a bit, that actually is my favorite part of the game. Some of y'all know I like games that really make me feel powerful, and this game has probably done that better than any game I've played. There are various games wherever you have superpowers and you beat up bad guys. I even mentioned one earlier in Spider-Man. But the difference between Prototype and Spider-Man, or even Batman Arkham Knight, is they don't give some illusion that the things you are doing is keeping a person alive. No, you are slicing people in half. You're throwing them off skyscrapers. You're blowing them up entirely. And I don't know if it makes me disturbed to like that, but I do think it was definitely cool for the vibe of the game. Now, I'm not going to focus on the story too much because honestly, I don't even think the story is that important or even that good. Because if I was to slightly even touch on the story, it was just nothing that stuck out to me very much at all. None of the characters seemed memorable. If I'm being honest, even Alex Mercer didn't seem that memorable. I think Alex Mercer even developed more as a character in the second game. But it was okay to me for the story to fall this short because the thing that really carried this game was the combat. Some people would call it repetitive, but I do feel like it's so fun and so violent and somewhat shocking every time that it never gets old. Now, like I said, some people complain about this, but it truly never was an issue for me. Just because we're talking about the combat and there's not too much in the story here, I wanted to rank all of the I don't think you could call them weapons. I guess mutation weapons. That would be a better way to describe it. That you could use in the game. All right, let's start with claws. This is the first ability that you ever get in the game. I think claws is cool, and I think some of the upgrades that you get with it makes it fun to use as well. Specifically the one where you put your claws into the ground and then huge spikes come out of the ground. Oh, I didn't say this before, but I'm gonna rank them all 1 through 5. I think I'm gonna give the claws a good 4. Next up, we got muscle mass. Probably my least favorite power in the entire game. I guess it's like supposed to make you stronger or something like that. But the thing about it is you're already superhumanly strong in the game. So I never really was able to notice that much of a difference while playing. So for that, I'm gonna give muscle mass a 1. Next up, we got hammer fist. I think hammer fist looks cool as a design, but personally, I really didn't like having to go up very close to people and try and Hulk smash them. I do definitely think this one kind of boils down to preference. Some people might love it. I just wasn't really on the side of liking it too much. For that, I'm gonna give hammer fist a 3. After that, we're gonna have whip fist. Yes, I didn't make that up. The name is literally called whip fist. But believe it or not, whip fist is actually my favorite ability in the game. It's kind of like a blade on a whip that extends indefinitely, but it's really cool. Also very useful in the game. Grab enemies from super far away. I also like that move where you could like sweep enemies and cut them all in half 1 by 1. Well, I guess it's not 1 by 1 because it happens in one big sweep, but you get the point. And I'm going to give whip fist a 5. After that, we got possibly the most iconic weapon in Prototype. Is literally on both the covers, and that's the blade. I mean, the blade is super typical, to be honest. The biggest advantage with it is that it's like really fast, and it has a super cool cutscene when you first get it. I don't really have too much to say about the blade, but just because of personal enjoyment and nostalgia, I'm gonna give the blade a 4. So I can't forget about the defensive powers, which is the shield. The shield is definitely a 1. I've literally never used a shield for anything. It might be useful, but I just never found it that interesting to even bother. Next up, we got the armor. I really liked the armor in the first game, and I hated that they made it a skin in the second game. The only downside with the armor is that it makes you a lot slower, but honestly, most of the time I was willing to make that sacrifice just so I could look more cool. Just for the sake of it being cool and also nostalgia, I'm going to give the armor a 5. The first Prototype will always have a special place in my heart. I enjoyed it very much, but if I'm being honest, if we're talking technically speaking, the second game was definitely miles better than the first.
Only the most highly trained among you will be sent in.
All clear.
We enlisted the help of the military to neutralize this zone. Most of them were killed. Except for one, Sergeant James Heller.
I repeat, Mercer's County 2 clicks east, Delta 0.
I got you now.
Hold your position. Reinforcements are en route. Form up! Prepare to engage. What the hell?
You can't kill me. You can't kill me, motherfucker. All right then, let's see if that goes both ways.
Now, when people talk about the Prototype series, Prototype 2 is usually the most debated entry as a whole. Some people think that it's just objectively better, while some people think that it lost the thing that made it special in the first place. Honestly, I just feel like I'm in the middle of both of these arguments, because like I said, I do think Prototype 2 is objectively a better game. I mean, they improved on everything. The graphics, the story, combat is, you know, a little debatable. But when I think about which game I enjoyed more, I actually like the first one better. And that's really weird to me because I can't really put my finger on why, but I just do. Comment which one y'all think is better in the comments because I truthfully don't know. All right, to first talk about the plot of Prototype 2. They switched the protagonist to James Heller, who is a former Marine whose family was killed by the virus outbreak. From the narrative perspective, this was definitely a deliberate move. One of the biggest criticisms of the first game was that Alex Mercer felt emotionally distant and people couldn't really connect with him as a character. His criticisms was very similar to Aiden Pierce from Watch Dogs, if y'all have ever played that. I definitely do understand the criticism, and honestly, if I was to pick which character I like more, as an adult, I would say James Heller. But as a kid, I would say Alex Mercer. And I'm gonna be completely honest, as childish as it may sound, when I was a child, I liked Alex Mercer more just because he had a hood and a cool leather jacket. But I like James Heller more as a character now because more than anything, I understand his motivations. I get that Alex Mercer was trying to like find out who he was in the first game and the military, you know, wanted to end him as a result. But in Prototype 2, James Heller losing his family made you kind of want to see him win a little more. And most people could probably really empathize with the character. Now, like I said, that made the story a lot easier to follow, but for better or for worse, it made it a lot more straightforward and less mysterious. I really don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, because more than anything, I think truly getting immersed in a game is all about the tone and the vibe that the game sets. But even though the first prototype almost perfectly set the tone, besides a few key things, I pretty much had no idea what the story was about, or why Alex Mercer was just throwing a full-on war. Now let's talk about the gameplay of Prototype 2, which, like I said, I think is objectively better. Combat is smoother, animations are more polished, and the whole upgrade system just works better in my opinion. Movement was already strong in the first game, and I think that carries over to here. Heller doesn't really feel as floaty as Mercer though. I think that was intentional though. Heller is obviously supposed to be like a bigger, more brute force type of guy, and I think the shift fits Heller's character perfectly. Unlike Alex Mercer, he isn't a scientist turned monster, he's a soldier turned into a weapon. Even the way he fights reflects that philosophy. One of the most controversial decisions of Prototype 2 was to make Alex Mercer the villain, which for some reason people don't like, but honestly, I thought it was a pretty good twist. Now, because of my own biases, I don't like Alex Mercer being the villain, but I think he works very well as one. I think some people didn't like it because the philosophical gray area of the first game was kind of gone. You constantly question if Alex Mercer is really wrong for what he's doing, but in the second game, he goes full-on Looney Tunes Joker.
Either on your own, or after I skull fuck you and drain your memories out the hole.
Scary. You just don't get it, do you? I gave you everything, and this is how you come to me. Can't you understand what I'm doing? Humanity is stagnant, dying. I would give it one body, one mind. Think about it. No more conflict, no more disease, no more suffering. Don't you see? I'm giving it a second chance.
Enough of your fucking weird, fucking rambling shit! Give me my daughter!
No, I don't think so. It's time you gave me something. You see, young Amaya shares your brand of annoyingly resilient DNA. And when she's ready, your daughter will become the mother of the new world. So now the only thing standing between me and Earth's true destiny is you.
Which, like I want to say again, I am completely fine with personally. I think this makes the story a lot better and makes things more cinematic, and I think developing a clear hate for a character makes it more enjoyable. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of gray area stories. I like to know if my characters are good or straight up evil, and I'll have fun playing as either one. I do understand the appeal of a gray area story, but I'm just personally not the biggest fan. Another big difference in Prototype 2 was the world design. New York City is divided into multiple zones, each reflecting different level of infection and military control. Red zones are just fully overrun, and green zones are heavily fortified by Blackwatch. This gives the open world more variety, and it really makes it feel like a big deal whenever you go to the red zone. Enemy variety is pretty much somewhat the same. Boss fights are a little bit more cinematic. However, despite the improvements in this area, the core gameplay loop doesn't really change that much from the first one, which I do want to add is not a bad thing in my opinion, because personally, I feel like they nailed it. There just wouldn't be more that I would ask for in this type of game. Since I did a review on all the abilities of the first game, I will also do that for the second one. Sadly, the only new one they actually added for Prototype 2 was the tendrils, which I actually like pretty well, only because it made you create your own sort of like art piece with people's body parts. Again, I'm not a psycho or some serial killer or something, or am I? I guess another ability that you could mention is the fact that they let you summon brawlers this time, which I guess is cool in theory, but not something that I find myself calling on that much, if I'm being completely honest. When Prototype 2 launched, sales were actually generally positive, but sales told a different story. Critics praised the improvements, but mainly felt like the game played it too safe, which honestly I'm inclined to agree. It felt like they kind of took something dark and edgy and tried to make it appeal to more people, but I think the main thing that people liked was the dark and edginess. Looking back on it now, I feel like Prototype 2 was kind of a game that was caught in between two different eras. It's more polished than its predecessor, but again, less daring. It fixes what some people would see as problems, but honestly, some of those problems weren't really necessarily problems. And that's why it stands as both the high point and the end point for the franchise. And yeah, sadly, that is where the franchise ended. After Prototype 2 launch, Activision made a strategic shift. Instead of supporting multiple mid-tier hear franchises, they double down on guaranteed revenue streams, meaning Call of Duty, Skylanders, and later in today, live service games, which we all know I have a deep hatred for. Radical Entertainment, despite their talent, did not fit into that plan. In 2012, Activision laid off a massive portion of Radical Entertainment staff and effectively shut down Radical Entertainment as a development team, turning it into a supporting studio before dissolving the team altogether. That's why we never got a Prototype 3. It wasn't because the game was hated or the mechanics didn't work. It was because Prototype existed in an environment that had no patience for cult success. I'm not gonna lie, this is super disappointing to me because I feel like if they had a little bit more time to kind of develop, it really could have been something special, or they could have turned it into a live service game. So maybe it's good to end it here. I don't know, it just seems like it's so much stuff they could have done with the concept. And I don't say this about many games, but this definitely is a franchise I would like to see get a reboot. I think if the right developer got their hands on this concept, it's something that they can make really cool. Being that Activision is the one who owns it, I don't know if we'll ever see that, but it is definitely something I would like to see happen. That's pretty much all I gotta say about Prototype. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a like, comment how you feel about the series, and if you would want to see it come back. Thank you for tuning in today, and one more thing before you go.
You need to do first. Gentek's been experimenting with the virus, making all kinds of infected creatures. You need that DNA. When you're ready, I'll find you. And for God's sake, man, put some fucking clothes on.